Ever feel like tweaking just a few rules could, seriously level up your D&D sessions?
Oh, absolutely. Like maybe those critical hits sometimes feel a bit, I don't know, swingy.
Exactly. Or maybe you just want your players rolling dice a bit more often when the monsters come knocking.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, isn't it? The core rules are solid, super robust, but they're also kind of built for tinkering.
The game practically invites you to adapt it, to make it really yours.
And that whole spirit of adaptation, that's exactly what we're diving into today.
We came across some really interesting ideas over on LitRPG Reads. They highlighted 7 essential homebrew rules that could genuinely enhance a 5e game.
Yeah, great stuff. So our goal here is basically to walk you through these ideas, explore the why behind them, as much as the how.
Think of it like a relaxed chat, just looking at some popular ways folks are tweaking the game, ways to maybe boost engagement, add a little tension, or just smooth out those small frustrations.
Sounds good. Where should we start?
Okay, let's jump right in. First up, a rule that touches on maybe one of the most exciting and sometimes, frustrating moments in combat. The critical hit.
The nat 20 attack roll. Always a big moment at the table.
Definitely. Under standard 5e, that glorious natural 20 means you double the weapon's damage dice, then add your modifier. Simple enough.
Right. So say a dagger doing 1d4 plus 3 damage. On a crit, that becomes 2d4 plus 3. Sounds powerful on paper.
Yeah, the idea is clearly supposed to be this massive, lucky blow, but LitRPG Reads points out a common drawback.
The dreaded low roll on the crit dice.
Exactly. You can roll terribly on those double dice. You roll 2 1s on your 2d4 dagger crit. That's just 2 damage. Add your plus 3 and you get 5 damage total.
Which could actually be less than a good roll on a normal hit sometimes. It just feels anticlimactic after the cheer for the nat 20.
It really does. It kind of undermines that feeling of a perfect vital strike,
It raises a good question for your table, right?
Yeah.
Should a crit always feel really impactful, or is that risk of a whiff part of the gamble?
And that leads us perfectly into the first homebrew rule from their list, the critical hit max roll rule.
Okay, so this changes the math a bit. On a crit, you don't double the dice at all.
Right. Instead, you automatically take the maximum possible result for the weapon's normal damage dice, and then you add your modifier.
Okay, so back to that 1d4 plus 3 dagger. Using this rule on a crit, it automatically deals 4 damage. That's the max of 1d4 plus your plus 3 modifier for a guaranteed 7 damage.
Precisely. And the article highlights a couple of key benefits here.
Go on.
One, it completely gets rid of those sad crit moments. A crit always feels significant damage-wise.
That's a big plus for player morale, I bet.
For sure. And 2, and this is interesting, it often stops critical hits from becoming like game-breakingly powerful. You're not doubling a potential high roll, just guaranteeing a solid hit.
I see. So you're not doubling a potential 6 on a d6, you're just guaranteeing 6 plus modifier. It smooths out the peaks.
Yeah, it's a smart middle ground. Guarantees a good hit, feels good consistently, but avoids those wild spikes that can throw off and counterbalance, especially at lower levels.
Makes sense. Okay, switching gears a little bit. Let's talk about the very start of combat initiative.
Right. Standard 5e, super simple. Roll a d20, add your dexterity modifier, highest total goes first.
And a natural 20 on that initiative roll. Statistically, it's great, likely means you go first. But the 20 itself doesn't do anything special beyond being a high number.
Yeah, and for a lot of players, and DMs too, that feels like a bit of a missed opportunity. A nat 20 on an attack is special. Why not on initiative? You are incredibly fast.
But you also don't want to give someone a massive ongoing buff just for rolling well on initiative. That could snowball things way too fast.
True. So what's the homebrew fix suggested?
It's about applying advantage or disadvantage based on those extreme initiative rolls.
Okay, how does that work?
It links the nat 1 and the nat 20. If a player rolls a natural 1 on their initiative d20, they get disadvantage on their very first action during that combat's first round.
Okay. And the flip side?
If they roll a natural 20 for initiative, they gain advantage on their very first action.
Oh, that's clever. And it's contained, right? Just affects that one first action.
Exactly. It gives mechanical weight to those extreme rolls, the super fast reaction or the clumsy start, without giving an ongoing bonus or penalty.
Yeah, nat 20 means you're so ready, you get that little edge.
Yeah.
And nat 1, maybe you fumbled your weapon draw, tripped slightly, whatever fits the moment.
It just makes those rolls feel significant, narratively and mechanically, but in a small, self-contained way that resolves quickly. It kind of aligns the feeling of a crit initiative with other crits.
Nice. Okay, let's get a little more serious now. Rule number 3, tackles what happens when characters drop to 0 HP. Supposed to be scary, right?
It definitely should be. The standard rule. You hit 0, you're unconscious. Start of your turn, make a DC 10 death saving throw. No modifiers.
3 successes before 3 failures, you stabilize. 3 failures, well, character's dead.
And the LitRPG Reads article brings up an interesting point. Under those standard rules, the actual chance of a character stabilizing once they start making saves is, well, pretty high, around 55%.
Better than a coin flip.
Yeah. And while, we don't want characters dying left and right usually, that relatively high survival chance can sometimes dilute the tension.
I see that. Hitting 0 HP becomes almost tactical sometimes. A calculated risk, not that terrifying moment. Players know the odds are kind of in their favor.
Definitely seen that. The panic isn't quite there because they know statistically they'll probably be okay. The article mentions you could just raise the DC, say, to 15. That drops survival to about 30%.
Oof. Yeah, it feels quite a bit more deadly, maybe too much for some groups.
Could be. Which raises that key question for DMs. How do you make hitting 0 feel genuinely dire for everyone at the table without necessarily making character death statistically much more likely?
And this is where the homebrew comes in. Hidden death saving throws.
Simple concept, potentially huge impact. When a character hits 0 and needs to make a death save, the player rolls their d20, but they do it privately.
Like behind the DM screen.
Often, yeah, or just cupped in their hands. The key is only the player making the save and the DM know the result. Success or failure. They might even be told, keep a poker face.
Ah, so the other players at the table know their friend is down, they know saves are being rolled, but they have no idea if that last roll was a step towards stabilizing or the end.
Exactly. It pumps all that narrative suspense right back into the situation. Is Sarah one success away from being okay, or is she teetering on the brink with 2 failures? That uncertainty for the rest of the party. That makes the scene feel way more tense and urgent.
Even though the actual mechanics, the DC 10, the 55% odds, haven't changed at all, it's purely psychological for the other players.
Pretty much. It creates drama without actually increasing the lethality, makes it feel like a real brush with death, not just hitting pause in the down state. I like that one.
Me too. Okay, let's shift gears to something a bit more administrative, but still really impactful in combat. Using consumables, potions mainly.
Right, and the article points out something interesting, a potential inconsistency maybe in the official books.
Yeah, the player's handbook, page 153, I think, says drinking or administering a potion takes your action.
But then later, page 190, it mentions you can drink like a flagon of ale as a bonus action.
Which feels a bit weird to a lot of people, right?
Right.
Why does chugging this vital healing liquid take my whole turn, but slamming back a beer is just a quick side thing?
It does seem odd. Which leads us to a very popular homebrew rule, using consumables as a bonus action.
Okay, so the common way this works is I can drink a potion on myself using my bonus action.
That's the typical implementation, yeah.
Whoa, okay, so if I'm low on HP holding a potion, I can just bonus action chug it and still have my main action to attack or cast a spell or whatever. That's a pretty big tactical change.
It absolutely is, and that's part of the idea. It makes potions much more viable, more usable in the heat of battle when actions are precious.
But there's a nuance, right? The article mentions something.
Yes, a crucial one. Administering a potion to someone else. That still requires your main action.
Ah, okay, so I can't just, bonus action, pour a potion down my dying buddy's throat.
Exactly. The article clarifies it nicely. Quaffing one yourself. Bonus action. Maybe quickly handing one to an adjacent ally who's conscious and can take it. That might be a bonus action. Kind of depends on the DM's call on quick interactions.
But physically getting it into an unconscious person.
That definitely takes your action. Because you are administering it. You're doing the work, not them. It separates self-help from actively aiding someone else who can't help themselves.
Okay, that distinction makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It adds consistency with other quick things like drinking ale, but keeps the helping others part as a more significant action cost. Frees up players, but keeps some balance.
Yeah, it aims for that balance and helps the combat flow feel less bogged down by everyone spending full turns just drinking potions.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, next up, character growth. That exciting moment of leveling up, specifically gaining hit points.
Always a good moment. Standard rules give you 2 choices when you level up for HP.
You can roll your character's hit die, like a d6 for a wizard, d10 for a fighter, add your constitution modifier, or you can just take a fixed average number.
Right, like 4 for that wizard instead of rolling 1d6, or 6 for the fighter instead of 1d10, Plus your con mod, always.
And the issue, as the article points out, that many tables run into is rolling can be rough.
Oh yeah, you roll a 1 on your hit die level after level. You can end up feeling really fragile, squishy, less fun to play maybe.
So players often just default to taking the average every single time, which is safe, but you lose that little thrill of maybe rolling high.
So the question becomes, how do you keep that potential excitement of rolling, but prevent characters from getting unfairly shafted by bad luck?
And LitRPG Reads presented 2 different homebrew solutions for this.
Okay, lay 'em on me.
Option 1 involves a bit of a gamble, a push your luck thing.
Ooh, intriguing.
You roll your hit die first. If the result is below the average number for your class, so rolling a 1, 2, or 3 on a d6 when the average is 4, you get a choice.
Choice is good.
You can either just say, okay, I'll take the average instead, safe bet, or you can choose to roll that hit die again.
Ah, but there's a catch, right?
Big catch. If you choose to roll that second time, you must accept the result of that second roll, even if it's lower than your first roll or lower than the average. No take-backs.
Ooh, okay. I like that risk reward. Do I play it safe with the average, or do I risk it for potentially getting that max roll I missed the first time, knowing I could end up even worse?
Exactly. It keeps the rolling exciting, provides a safety net, but adds this layer of calculated risk if you're feeling lucky.
Keeps things interesting. What's the second option?
Option 2 is much simpler. Pure safety net. You roll your hit die. If the result is below the average, you can just choose to take the average number instead. Full stop.
No second roll option.
Nope. Just roll, and if it's bad, you take the average. If it's average or better, you keep the roll.
That's pure risk mitigation then. Roll, hope for the best, fall back on the average if needed. Both seem like good ways to make HP gain feel more consistently rewarding without forcing players into those really low, potentially unfun HP totals.
Definitely. Okay, let's pivot now to the very beginning. Character creation. Specifically, getting those initial ability scores.
The foundation of the character. The standard, most common way is you roll your 6 scores using whatever method your table likes. 4d6 drop lowest is popular. And then you assign those 6 numbers to strength, dex, con, int, wisdom, charisma, however you want.
Right. It's great because it lets you build a character concept you already have in your head.
Right.
Want a wise cleric? Put your best score in wisdom. Want a sneaky rogue? Maximize dexterity. It gives players a lot of control.
Supports player agency, lets them optimize for the class they want to play, works great for tons of groups.
For sure. But the article explores the idea that maybe for more experienced players, or just for a different feel, there's another way. A way that offers a different kind of challenge.
Which brings us to the homebrew rule. Rolling abilities in order.
Okay, this sounds pretty hardcore. It's exactly what it says on the tin, right? You roll that first score, and boom! That is your strength. No swapping.
Pretty much. You roll your 6 scores, again using a method like 46 drop lowest usually, but you assign them sequentially as you roll them. First roll is strength, second is dexterity, third is constitution, fourth intelligence, fifth wisdom, sixth charisma. Fixed order.
Wow. Okay, that completely flips the script on character creation. You don't get to decide, I want to be a wizard, and then arrange your stats to fit. You see the numbers you get, then you figure out what kind of person those stats describe.
Right. It challenges that whole assumption that optimization starts before you even have stats. The main benefit discussed in the article is that it really forces players outside their usual comfort zones.
Yeah, I can see that.
It encourages creating and playing characters you might never have considered otherwise. It can lead to really unique concepts, interesting stories that come directly from wrestling with an unexpected stat array.
Like the example they used. Someone wants to be a big, tough barbarian, but they roll like a 6 for strength and a 17 for intelligence.
With this rule, that 17 is their intelligence. So maybe they don't play a barbarian. Maybe that high end pushes them towards being a surprisingly smart character, maybe even a wizard or an eldritch knight or something totally unexpected based on the other stats.
It's kind of seen as more realistic, maybe. Like you're born with certain aptitudes, you don't choose them, you just make the best of what you've got.
Exactly. You give up some upfront player control over the type of character, but it can spark creativity in a whole different way by presenting constraints. Definitely not for every table, but an interesting option.
For sure. Okay, finally, let's look at one more way to get players more involved in the dice rolling during combat, specifically when they are the ones being attacked.
Right. Standard combat, monster attacks player. DM rolls the d20, adds the monster's bonus, checks against the player's armor class, AC. Player just sits there and waits to hear hit or miss.
Yeah, and the perspective the article highlights is that while the DM is busy rolling potentially lots of dice for all the monsters, the players being targeted aren't rolling anything during that time. It can feel a bit passive for some.
Exactly. So the homebrew rule they discuss is called defense rolls, and it flips that dynamic completely.
So instead of the DM rolling to hit me, I roll to not get hit.
That's the core idea. When a monster attacks you, the attack is basically assumed to hit unless you actively succeed on a defense roll.
Okay, how does that roll work? What am I rolling against?
You, the player being attacked, roll 1d20, and you add your AC to the result. The target number, the DC you need to meet or beat, is calculated as 20 plus the enemy's attack bonus.
Okay, let's try an example. Say a goblin with a +4 attack bonus swings its scimitar at my paladin who has AC 18.
Okay.
Standard rules, DM rolls 1d20 +4 against my 18 AC. With this defense rolls homebrew, the goblin's attack just hits. Unless I roll 1d20 plus 18, and I need to beat DC of 20 plus 4, so DC 24.
You've got it. The math works out the same probability-wise, it just shifts who rolls the die.
And the benefits. Why do this?
Well, according to the article, the main benefits are player engagement and DM bandwidth. Players feel much more involved because they're actively rolling dice during the monster's turn, not just their own. Keeps them focused, more dice time.
Yeah, more rolling is often more fun for players.
And for the DM, it actually offloads a lot of rolling. They don't have to roll for every single goblin attack. They can focus more on describing the action, managing tactics, tracking hit points and conditions, keeping the narrative flowing, without constantly pausing to roll attack after attack.
Huh. That totally shifts the player's role from just being a passive target number to being an active defender rolling dice. I could see that making combat feel way more dynamic for everyone involved.
Definitely an interesting one to consider. So, okay, we've gone through 7 different ways you might tweak D&D 5e. Critical hits, initiative effects, death saves, consumables, HP gain, ability scores, and defense rolls.
Quite a range, and these are just, a handful of popular options drawn from those insights over at LitRPG Reads.
And the really critical takeaway, something the article stresses, is that the whole point of Homebrew isn't finding some objectively better rule set. It's about tailoring the game, making your campaign for your group more fun, more interesting.
Absolutely. Every table is different. Every group wants slightly different things from their game. These are just tools, right? Ideas to maybe discuss with your players.
Yeah, definitely discuss them. Don't just spring a major rule change on your group. Talk it over. Maybe pick one rule that sounds cool to everyone and just try it out for a session or two. See how it feels at your table before you make it permanent.
Good advice. And yeah, a huge thank you to LitRPG Reads and to Paul Bello over there for putting these ideas together and giving us such great stuff to talk about in this deep dive.
It's always cool to see the creative ways people are making the game their own.
For sure. So, thinking about all these different tweaks, these ways to kind of bend the core assumptions. What fundamental assumption about D&D combat, or maybe character building, does your favorite homebrew rule challenge?
Ooh, that's a good one to ponder. Is it challenging the idea that combat should be purely DM versus player roles? Or that characters should be optimized from the start?
Yeah, something to mull over. It really gets to the heart of what you value most in the game, doesn't it?
It really does. And hey, we genuinely love to hear from you, the listeners. What are your favorite homebrew rules? Have you tried any of the ones we talked about today? What worked? What didn't? Share your insights.